Working directly alongside another business. Is this the new norm? And not just at your local coffee shop. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Fervent 4. Did you know that only 4% of businesses ever cross the annual $1 million revenue mark? I'm Zack Miller, author of Anomaly. And with me today, I have my co-host, Tim Ryan, lead man at startwheel.org. Thank you so much for joining us. The Fervent 4 is a weekly show each and every Thursday at 11 a.m. dedicated to sharing insights into growing a world-class business, no matter the climate. The Fervent 4 is powered by the SBDC, which helps local small businesses grow through counseling and resources like this show. If you're interested in learning more on how the SBDC can help your business, head to startwheel.org/weekly. Savannah Bolin is the regional director at Gather Hampton Roads. Welcome to the show, and thanks for tuning in.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Good morning.
I forgot to do the clap last week, so we got to recreate the habit. Like, we got to clap when everyone comes on, like the peanut gallery. And this is also now, I don't know why I have two headphones on. Like this changing everything up. So I see everyone has got the black T-shirt memo, so thank you for that. That is wonderful. So Savannah, you grew up here?
I did. I grew up in Newport News.
And have you lived here your entire life, or how's that whole thing been going?
I have, for the most part. So I will say I definitely had to spread my wings a little bit. I went to Tampa, Florida for a short stint, and I've lived in Newport News, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, but I left Florida, and I think it really made me realize how much I loved Hampton Roads. I think sometimes you have to leave the area to come back and appreciate it. And so that's what I did, and I'm glad I did it. But now I'm back in Norfolk, and that feels like home for me.
They call that a boomeranger.
Well, that's what I am.
Wow.
There you go. How quickly, once you moved away, did you realize, hey, Tampa isn't for me?
I was only there a year. It was a combination of things. I got a job offer to come back to the area. I had a very convincing, awesome boss previously who just was convincing and got me to come back, take on a role. And, Florida seemed great at the time, but it's a lot of fun to vacation and it's okay to live there. But it just made me realize how much I loved Virginia.
Very interesting. And co-working is the name of the game these days. It's something that, I don't know, it's 15, 20 years old. How old is co-working? Do you know the genesis of all that?
I actually do not. That's a good question.
Stumped you on question number 3.
Man.
Tim, do you know when co-working started?
No, I was wondering, like, when WeWork was like kind of first getting started.
I mean, I feel like co-working became something that people talked about in super large cities, probably after people were overtaking tables at coffee shops,
Right?
I would think. And then they paired that with increasing rent or leasing monthly fees for a standard office commercial building, and they put the two together. But I have no idea.
Yeah, my guess would be probably 8 years is my thought.
8 years.
WeWork started in 2010, so 10 years.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say about 10 years because I feel like, to your point, Zach, when coffee shops started getting more popular and we wanted our really fancy coffees and we wanted to get out of the house more.
And Wi-Fi had to be available in those places at that time, too. That's probably something else worth not thinking about. Because I remember in Norfolk at this place called Bean there, at one point, that like having Wi-Fi in that place was like the big thing. And that was probably 2012.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting because Wi-Fi, we forget about these things. We're still so spoiled. It's 2020 and there's internet
Everywhere.
Okay, so Gather got started in Richmond, 90 miles north.
Mm-hmm.
And then when did that start?
Yeah, so we started 6 years ago in April of 2014. And our owners at the time, they had a commercial space and they had a bottom floor that they needed to do something with. They went on a chamber trip to Colorado and they saw a space that inspired them and said, let's do co-working. We can bring this to Virginia. And the main goal was they really wanted a nice professional space that they could bring people together and people could connect over coffee and fun events. And you have everything you need as a small business owner.
And then, so the first part was really out of necessity. Very cool. And how long was it before you guys started talking about expanding out of Richmond to Norfolk?
Yeah, so I think once they saw the popularity of it, the funny thing is they thought co-working would sell out. And I think at the time I wasn't on board yet, but they had, I think, 8 private offices and all of the private offices sold out. And they thought co-working would be the most popular, but it was really the opposite. People wanted the privacy, but they also wanted the communal aspect and for everything to be taken care of. So all-inclusive space. And so Hampton Roads was always a natural transition. Because it's so close to the area and the goal is to have multiple locations that you can have your meetings at. So then I came on board January of 2019, so about a year and a half ago.
That seems so long ago.
It does. I have opened 3 locations in a year and a half, so it has been a crazy ride. But it's funny because we just opened in Virginia Beach, and I remember starting on the 14th floor of the BB&T building with no desk, no chair, no beautiful backgrounds, no paint on the walls. And now here we are.
Let's define co-working, because I think it's all over the place, right? So how does Gather define co-working?
Yeah, so for us, co-working is all-inclusive. For us, all-inclusive Class A space. I don't think it always has to be, but for Gather, we do want to have very nice Class A commercial space, but at a lower cost for small and mid-sized businesses. That gives you flexible options, whether you're working in a communal area or a private space. So I think a lot of times people think that co-working is just in that open area, and they don't realize that you can have private offices with a key, with a mailing address, and it's all inclusive.
Well, that's definitely coffee shop co-working, right? That's definitely that style where it's long tables, people coding away, which is, as we're thinking about the genesis of co-working, dudes and dudettes chilling in San Francisco on their coffee tables, just coding away, I'm sure. Who knows? We're probably way off on that. Okay, so Class A office space, which is the top of the line, is Class A the highest that you can get? Okay.
Yes.
And then so instead of having to get a full-on lease like you would standard like a floor or a part of a floor on a standard commercial lease, they are leasing from you a subset of a smaller piece of a building that you have the full lease from the building from. Is that
correct?
Right. Okay. And then most of the amenities that they typically would have to get individually are now done through you.
Yes, absolutely. And we do membership agreements. So we do not do leases with our members. We do sign a lease for our spaces. Some of the buildings we have owned previously, but we do a membership agreement. So it's similar to a gym membership with those members.
Okay. What would you say the difference between a lease and a gym membership is? Is it just the name, or is there really something significantly different with it?
Yeah, so there's some legality aspects, but the membership agreement gives us a few extra rights, and then it also offers for it to be a little bit more flexible too. So a lot of times people think that they're signing this long-term lease when really they're signing an agreement that it's month to month or a 12-month with us.
What was the most challenging part, do you think, that the move from Richmond to RVA to the 757 was? Do you think there's any challenges or things that were easier, or what was more difficult in terms of the culture?
Yeah. So, you guys know the area pretty well, as do I. And I think the biggest challenge is that, Richmond and Hampton Roads or 757, it seems like a natural transition, and it is because we're so close, and a lot of our businesses need space in Hampton Roads and they need space in Richmond. But in Hampton Roads, each city operates so differently. And I think, we're starting to work together more, and there's a lot more collaboration. But how business runs in Newport News versus Norfolk versus Virginia Beach, even for somebody that has grown up here my entire life, they run so differently. The clientele is very different. The things that people are looking for is very different. And so, I think the goal was that it would operate just like our Richmond locations. And that's definitely been challenging because we've had to tailor it to each location.
So you hear a lot of people talk about the differences of cities and things like that. Is it really that different? I mean, can you give me an example of something that's remarkably different? Because to me, I feel like that is constantly just chatter, right? And so it's like when you were in Tampa, there was Clearwater, there was other cities right around there. It's just kind of the way that things happen. And so with Richmond, there's Midlothian and I don't know other parts of Richmond, but like, is it not the same like that? Like what's really the structure that's so different that people continue to deploy as a reason as to things are so complicated here?
Yeah, I think, in the larger areas, so Norfolk and Virginia Beach are a little bit more progressive. I think people are more familiar with co-working than in Newport News. I think in Newport News, it's been tough because a lot of people don't quite understand what co-working is or how it could fit in for them. And we're still doing a lot of educating in Norfolk and Virginia Beach as well. And I think there's also the progression of where businesses are in their business is very different. So sometimes people will come to us and they're just starting out and they're really excited and we want to help them. But at the same time, we don't want to get them in a situation where maybe they're not as far along as they should be. And maybe they aren't ready to take that big step of a first office. And so I think we find that businesses sometimes seem to be a little bit further along depending on the city. And maybe they have a little bit more financial means in certain cities to make that big leap towards a private office.
Yeah, I think that another thing that's really that's challenging about this area is the fact that we don't have there's not a downtown. So Norfolk is very lucky in the sense of they have Granby and the cool things that Zack was able to do when he had Hatch. It was just a natural place where there was a lot of density and that a lot of people gathered. No pun intended there. There's just not. That's the big challenge that we have with our area is that there is not those downtown pockets that that you see in traditional cities. And we hope that the tech center is going to establish that as that continues to get built out. And city center, is that what it's called? Town center in Virginia Beach?
Yeah, town center in Virginia Beach. And, to your point, I think one thing we noticed too is, and I saw this in Tampa with all the different cities, everybody's so divided. I live in downtown Norfolk. I have family in Newport News. I really have family everywhere. I go to Virginia Beach all the time. So I hop around all the time, but we have so many people that, if they don't spend a significant amount of time in that area, we're still having to work really hard to make sure they know about us. So, if they haven't spent time in tech center yet, or, we've had people say, well, I didn't know you guys were in downtown Norfolk. And we're like, man, how did you not? Our name is on the building. We're doing all these things to get our names out there. We go to a lot of networking events, which, pre-COVID, that was a little bit more doable. But, sometimes we find ourselves saying like, how did they not know we were in downtown Norfolk or in Newport News or town center? But that shows us we still have a lot of work to do. And I think part of that is that people tend to stay in their bubble of the area. And then there's the ones like us that bounce around to all the cities. So it's trying to figure out how do we reach those people that aren't bouncing around.
One of the amenities that many enjoy about co-working or working at a gather is this thing that we'll call, I'm just all about these air quotes right now, I guess, is community, right? And so as someone who helped launch Gather in Norfolk and Newport News and now Virginia Beach, and yet the business was originally created 90 miles north or west, I guess, northwest, not in Richmond. We'll just go with that. How do you establish a community when that community hasn't been there ever, like creating it from zero? So how do you create a community? Because that's, I think, a big buzzword that people will use. But how do you create something like that? How do you gather people to be a part of that community that doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing is trial and error and just hitting the ground running. I know you guys know this, but I go to a lot of networking events and we host a lot of events in our space. And, even now we're trying to do some little small things that are safe, but bringing people together and just getting ourselves out there. And I think celebrating the wins along the way. It's, been a lot of work, and obviously 2020 has not been the year we expected, but I think you have to celebrate that even if 5 members come out for cookie hour, that's still 5 people that you're connecting with, that you're changing their day, you're impacting their day over a cookie. It's, not a big deal. Some coffee, a cookie, conversation, but you're introducing them to those other members and making sure that they feel welcome and excited to be there. And I think that makes a huge difference, even when it is starting out small.
Tim, did you hear that? Cookies?
Yeah.
This is cookie hour, isn't it? Like, she didn't send us any cookies. This is ridiculous.
Yesterday at 3 p.m., you got to be there.
No. You did not. We were not notified beforehand that at Thursday at 11 a.m. we were going to have cookie hour. And I will be all about like some oatmeal, raisin, warm out the oven cookies right now.
Okay. I'll write it down.
Yeah, please. Tim, what's your favorite kind of cookie?
Yeah, I'm a guy that I like the dough more than I like the cookie itself a lot of times. So chocolate chip cookie dough is where it's at for me.
There you go. Savannah?
Raisin.
I'm a classic person. I think, you know what? I want to say chocolate chip, but Monster cookies. We get some really great Monster cookies from Indulge Bistro in Newport News, and they are delicious.
Explain more what a Monster cookie is.
It's a little of everything. So it either has peanut butter, oatmeal, M&Ms, chocolate chips, and it's just all put together.
I'll have to rewatch this or say where that was again.
Monster cookies at Indulge something.
Indulge Bistro in Newport News in Hilton.
Okay.
Well, there you go. A little free plug for the Monster cookie.
Yeah.
How did you find this Monster cookie?
Well, I've had them before, so it's not their original creation, but I grew up in Newport News, and they've been big supporters of ours. They're in Hilton, which is a cute little neighborhood in the area, and they've got some killer food as well, but they also do coffee and pastry, so the perfect coffee shop to work at. And so we connected with them, and they've been bringing our cookies ever since.
Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great aspect of Gather that I really appreciate is the fact that you all do support so many small businesses at all of your locations, whether if it's coffee or cookies or when you open up the taps. I mean, it's really, really important to support the small businesses as opposed to, it's just nice to reciprocate the love and support those that are supporting you. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. We try really hard with that. And I will say, being established in Richmond, it's been tough because sometimes you already have those vendors lined up, but we try to make sure that we're finding local Hampton Roads ones. And when we expand to other areas, we want to use vendors that are local to that city as well. And so that's really important to us because we're a small business and trying to survive and thrive as well.
We have a comment from Nick Sutton, owner of Digital Lens Rental in downtown Norfolk. He says, guess Zach will need to swim a few more laps, and Tim will need to run a little further on I-91 just to justify the Monster cookie. I guess so. Well, this Monster cookie, I mean, if it sucks, like, it's all on you, Savannah. So hopefully it's delicious. I mean, we're all going there afterwards.
They should have had a stand out at the One City Marathon to fuel up when we were running by. They've
been doing a food truck. So what you could do is have the Monster cookie and then walk through Hilton, get on the Nolan Trail, and you'll run it off.
And then puke. Great. Me and Zach Miller does that anyway, so it's fine. I want to stay on that kind of small business, buy local kind of movement. I think that obviously it's grown over the last decade. And it's been something that's been very integral to small communities similar to the Hilton one that you're talking about, the downtown Norfolk community and other communities all across the region, all across the country, right? How does a business, how does an individual support small businesses? Because I've seen these posts online that says things like, oh, share their post on Facebook, like their post, engage. But ultimately, that probably doesn't move the bottom dollar. So in your mind, as a consumer of local small businesses, what do you do, and what can others do to actually support that business when times for a local small business, according to the world, are pretty bad right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's something you have to actively talk about, work towards. I mean, I do think the social part helps. We do a lot, speaking about Gather, we do a lot on social media, and a lot of people find us on social media. But I think you have to actively go after the small businesses. There's a small business that I really want to support over the last few weeks, and I keep missing their closing time. And I could go to Target and buy what I need at Target there, but I'm actively choosing to wait and suck it up because I want to go support this local business in Ghent. And so I think, just talking about the businesses, helping people find new businesses and recommending them as well, helping with introductions. I think, part of what makes Gather successful is we provide that hospitality and make sure that people like it. And then they bring their friends in and they want to tell their friends about it because they're proud about it. And I support local businesses that I'm really excited and proud about. And then I want everybody else to know about them too.
You've talked about, I lost my complete train of thought. Tim, you ask a question because I don't know what I'm going to say.
Well, no, I think that it's really, really important. I mean, so for the folks that are familiar with Newport News, you have Lowe's and Home Depot on Jefferson Avenue, but right across the street from there is Ferguson. So if you're looking to upgrade your bathroom or your shower, or whatever it is, then stop at Ferguson and look at the things that they have on display. And supporting the people, because I know that Ferguson has been a great supporter of the entrepreneurial movement across Hampton Roads, and they're really investing big to keep within our community. So, we need more businesses like that, but everything works in full circle. We have to support one another so that they will continue to support us. And it's really tough, especially for Gather. I mean, it's just, to be the ones that are carving the path, it just takes a lot of time and a lot of patience, and then it's tough to measure that ROI right off the bat, but it will come around. And
so that's kind of around what I wanted to ask, that I remembered and forgot twice, by the way, since being back on this. So marketing towards something that a lot of people don't understand or know yet about. I mean, ultimately, that's really what Gather's had to do. They've had to start letting the world know that, hey, this thing that historically you've gotten this way, you can actually get this way, and it's going to save you a ton of money. You're going to meet a lot of new people, relationships galore. So how do you start implementing and letting the world know, or your target customer know, that you exist, and to be able to actually understand if you got some sort of ROI in there from some of the things that you're doing?
Yeah. So how do we let them know, pre-COVID or during COVID?
Yeah, I mean, I think COVID is going to go away at some point, right? So what are the things that you did before, and how did you stay afloat in the last 6 months or so? And hopefully COVID does go away, right? But yeah. I mean, what did you do coming on board January of 19 to March of 20 to then the last 4, 5, 6 months to let people still know? Because you guys opened a new location within the last, 7 or 10 days. So, I mean, it's not like you haven't been doing other things as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I asked that because, I think we're still figuring it out, to be honest. January 19, we did a little of any and everything. I think, you guys know, as a small business, we're small staff. When I came on board, I was the 10th staff member. Now we've grown to 17. So we've grown pretty quickly with our staff because of our new locations. But we've done a little bit of everything. We have stood in downtown Norfolk with signs, giving out day passes. We've done digital marketing, obviously word of mouth, going to networking groups. We've done targeted ads, but I think the biggest thing is physically getting out there and introducing ourselves. And it is tough because we've had some competition come along the way, and they do things a little bit differently than we do, but we are just trying to focus on who we are and what we do. We really believe in our product and the community that we serve. And so getting out there and being the face of Gather is very important. And that's part of why I'm here. They brought on somebody local that knows the people and the community. So it's not just, oh, here's another company from Richmond that's coming into the area. We want it to be very local and very personal.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest challenges. And I think that you all fall into the same category is when you see your name all over in the posts and you're spreading that good news cheer that everything is great. One, other people think that it's really easy. So then they're like, oh, we're going to go ahead and open up our own co-working space. We have some vacant offices that we can rent out, and that can help extend our budget and help our bottom line. But two, the other thing is the fact that then there's this conception that people are like, oh, they're doing great. They no longer need my support. And that couldn't be further from the truth. We have to continue to support one another, no matter what it may look on the outside. I mean, because we are marketing, and just because you hit a certain level, what gets you to one spot, doesn't get you to the next spot. So everyone needs to continue to support one another.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people, when I, first was in this role, they said, and even now, oh, that's a great concept. You just buy a building and you throw a few desks into it, and my light just turned off, and slap some paint on it and, sell office space. And that is far from the truth. There's so much more that goes into it and so much more intention. And I think a lot of people don't realize that.
Welcome to Gather After Dark.
I know. I'll try to get my light back up.
I don't know. Okay. So how do you understand how big a market is to expand to multiple locations, right? So you guys went from Richmond to Norfolk. You did Norfolk, and I think the idea was to do multiples immediately. But how do you kind of look at the numbers that you have and say, yeah, we think that we can expand to Newport News, to Virginia Beach, and to maybe other places as well? How do you gauge that? Because I think any business would want to expand if the numbers look right. Are there certain key metrics that you guys are looking at to say, hey, we know that this area can handle this or is looking for it, or how do you kind of judge that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we looked at the overall population of Hampton roads and in a way considered that, just like Richmond is considered one big area, we also considered Hampton roads one large area, but then also looked at what cities we thought could handle having a Gather in them. So our goal was to open at least 3, maybe 4 down the road, depending on how things progress. But we look at the overall population of an area, and then we make sure that we could open a cluster of Gathers, because the benefit is you might have your home office in Virginia Beach, but you do a lot of business in Newport News. And so we want you to have that meeting space and event space and have all of those amenities. So we'd like to open 3 to 4 in each area that we go to.
So was there any kind of next line data point that you looked at, amount of home businesses in a specific area, type of leases that are coming up? Was there any other other data other than just the population that went into stuff?
Yeah, so we look at the population. We also look at the millennial population. We're not just millennials, but we do attract quite a bit of millennials as well. So,
what is a millennial? Oh, this sounds exciting. Never heard about this.
About why we look at the millennial population?
No, what is a millennial?
We're millennials.
What? Millennials?
Never heard of her.
What is a millennial?
So millennial is the late 80s, early 90s age group. Well, I guess mid 80s now that I'm thinking about it. So they're in their
80 to 2000. I obviously know what a millennial is.
Yeah. I was like, man, he's going to make me explain this.
A millennial is an age group of people that was before your parents and after your brothers and sisters. I don't know.
Yeah. Either way,
you track them, you look at that, and then, sorry to throw off your answer.
Yeah, so we look at the overall population. We look at the millennial population. Obviously, it's got to be the right fit as far as the commercial space. And, this is something that our CEO, Doug, works on the most. He's our number cruncher. So he would give a much longer answer for me than I will. But we also look at, we don't want to be in the Chicagos of the New Yorks of the world. We want to be in places where there will be as little competition as possible, and that still has a larger population with the need for space like ours for small and mid-sized businesses.
So you mentioned marketing, trying to get in front of folks, get the word out about who you all are, and you do a great job. What do you do to stay ahead of everyone? I mean, it's such a copycat world out there that once it looks like something is working, then competitors, people in similar industries may adopt cookie hours or food truck Fridays or whatever the case might be. How do you stay ahead of the game? Is it just a constant process to continue to innovate and come up with new ideas?
Yeah, absolutely. We are constantly trying to keep ahead of things, but I think the biggest thing is we hire really good people and we really focus on hospitality versus commercial space. So we have 2 community managers on site. I rotate throughout. Our owners are very involved. I know you guys have both met our 3 managing partners. And so I think what really sets us apart is that we're not here to just sell you office space. We're here to know your name and your business and what you're doing this weekend and what your interests are, and help you connect with people in the space. And, we've had so many people that have fell onto hard times because of COVID. And they said, I really considered canceling my membership, but I just can't do that to y'all because I love seeing your faces and I love having you guys here to say hi to me in the morning when I come in and to have fresh coffee. And it's the highlight of my day. And so, we've had competitors come in and try to snag our people and get ahead of us. And we're just trying to focus on what we're good at, which is being a people person, hospitality, and just being true to who we are.
I believe it was the great Tony Hsieh of Zappos who said that they are a customer service business that happens to sell shoes online. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you guys are trying to be a customer service business that happens to gym membership like. What was the word you used for your gym membership?
Yeah, we're like a gym membership. We have a membership agreement.
A membership agreement for office space, right? And so that's interesting. So when COVID did hit, in what, March, I guess middle of March is when the world started, or the United States started seeing COVID as something that we need to take very seriously. How quickly did the team at Gather start to be like, okay, we need to have a plan on this? When did you guys start to see some of those businesses that you mentioned, like, hey, like we're teetering, staying on or not? Like, how did that whole thing go down?
Yeah, I'd say, early March is when we started feeling it, but around like March 15th, 16th, it seems like that's kind of the date for everybody, but that's what really sticks in my mind of like, oh, this is not just a little thing. This is going to be much bigger. And I think it's still evolving. I mean, we're still trying to figure out what's going on with it. But we had a meeting pretty quickly of what can we do? How can we keep our members safe? We have a lot of people ask us, well, you're a communal space and you have people gather. How are you managing this? And we have done quite a bit to make sure that we are safe for our members. And we've added things and taken away things that were a little bit more communal. And, we switched to virtual events and did what we needed to do. I think that's the benefit of a small business when, it's all hands on deck and everybody can pivot pretty quickly. That also means it all falls on you. You don't have this big headquarters telling you how to manage and handle things. But at the same time, we all have the attitude, all right, this is happening. What can we do? And so we have tried to adapt as quickly and as safely as possible, and also work to make sure our message of how we're handling things is getting out there. which has obviously been a new marketing effort so that people feel safe still coming in.
Yeah, I mean, to me, safety is the thing that's always in question with all of this, right? Where people are, well, is it safe for me to go there? Should I do this? Should I do that? And so how have you rolled that out? You just tell your members? Do you then market that things are clean too? Because at the beginning of this, that March 16th date that you said, you had a lot of people mass blast them, and it seemed like it was a copy and paste job of what people were doing. Like, hey, we're safe, we're clean, we're doing all this extra stuff. Did you do? And by the way, it literally was the same stuff that everyone was saying. And there was 2 people that were sick at that point, not however many people are sick at this point. And so are you or have been infected with the virus? I don't know if sick is the right word. Who knows? But so how have you kind of let the world know, let your customers know, and those target prospects out there that, hey, this is what we're doing. This is how we're making sure things are good so that you are safe when you come in here. Because I think that's the number one thing that everyone would be frightened about is should I go and is it going to be safe?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've done a number of the things that I think a lot of businesses have. We definitely put in some safety measures and alerted our members every other week about what we were doing. So we got hospital grade air filters for our communal areas. We took away our coffee stations, made them more touch free. We've put social distancing signs up. We've been enforcing it. We give out masks. If you don't have one, don't worry, we've got one for you. So we've done a number of things. We also have a page on our website that we put together to let people know how we were addressing things. And, the tough part is everybody feels a little bit differently about it. And that's okay. We're, as a country and really in the world, we're still trying to figure out what's going on. So we're just doing as much as we can to be safe. We follow all of the governor's guidelines and we try to communicate that. So when people come in for tours, we let them know what we're doing ahead of time. We also check in with them and make sure that they feel safe about things. And then we've still held some small events that are social and distance in our community to make sure that our members are still getting value, because we want to make sure that they still feel good about their membership, and that can be a challenge right now. So we did have to move some events to virtual, and then I think everybody kind of got tired of virtual events, and so now we're kind of doing half virtual, half non. But we did do some targeted marketing to let people know, and we're still doing targeted marketing to let people know how we're addressing it.
Yeah, I just looked. It was March 12th was the startup night that we did at Gather.
Yes.
And that was like the last hurrah before everything shut down for a while.
That was a Thursday, and then I think that was the day that the NBA player, the whole NBA went down. Mm-hmm. And then the 13th, and then so that would have been 14th, 15th. So 16th would have been that Monday. That seems so long ago, though.
I know, that's what I was about to say. It seems like ages ago.
It's been like 6 months. Where you can go, Tim. Sorry.
I was just admiring you, Zach. I had nothing.
Where is that picture behind you, Savannah?
So this is at the ocean front. This is the Croatan conference room. We named all of our Virginia Beach conference rooms after iconic areas and beaches in the area to keep it local.
That was a question I was going to ask. You have a cool naming convention for all of your spaces.
Oh, so that picture got way cooler when you showed the whole thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So is that person on a surfboard or a paddleboard? Well, it's hard to see from here.
I think he is.
Or is that a whale?
He's on a paddleboard and he's laying on the beach. It's a drone shot. So we tried to partner with local photographers to get some of our murals on the back walls. Not everyone has one, but we named each one or did some piece of art in each conference room after an area in Virginia Beach.
That's interesting. We had Dennis Gray of Accurate Pest Solutions on a few weeks ago, and we talked about branding things or making something a little bit more unique on something that you would already be getting done anyway. And so he has these bright fluorescent yellow cars, fleet vehicles, and he has a pest solutions company. And he made them very flamboyant, I guess would be the word, maybe like highlighter, like very like wild.
Yeah.
So like you see him and you're like, oh, that's it. And so he did that intentionally But he was going to spend the money anyway. And so it's interesting that you guys probably were going to put artwork out there anyway, and you decided to do something that would be memorable. And I think that's very important. You know, if you want to be the anomaly, you have to do things that are memorable in there that gets people to stand out. It only took 39 minutes and 49 seconds to say that word, but technically I said in the intro, so that's a lot. But I'm glad that you guys did that. Is that your favorite picture, or what's your favorite picture that you guys have?
Yeah, this is definitely my favorite one. It was one of those pictures when I found it, I thought like, man, I just want to be there. Like I want this on my wall. And that's been a fun part for me is I get to help with the local touches because I am one of our local people. And so I've gotten to help incorporate conference room names in Newport News and Norfolk and in Virginia Beach. And this one, I don't know, I felt like I wanted to be here when I saw this picture. So
what are the names for Norfolk and Newport News?
So Newport News, it's animals after the Virginia Living Museum. And so we've got the otter, the sea turtle, and we've got fun phrases that are on the walls with them. We didn't necessarily do pictures of otters all over the walls. But and then in Norfolk, we have iconic buildings and areas, neighborhoods in Norfolk. So we've got Wells Theater, Attucks Theater, Freemason. I did Ward's Corner, which was a little controversial because I think some people don't think Ward's Corner is a true area of Norfolk anymore. And to me, that is one of our oldest areas.
What? That's like one of those things on Facebook when you just scroll or unfollow. Like, it's not an area. Like, what would it be then?
I don't know.
Exactly.
I specifically wanted it there because it was less of the like typical go-to areas. And I went to ODU for 2 years, and I went to Ward's Corner almost every weekend. And most people, have done something in Ward's Corner.
You were like, Ward's Corner is my place.
That's right.
Do you have a secret favorite office of the three at Hampton Roads?
Oh.
Or is there a secret room that no one knows about?
I don't think we have any. I mean, I'm sure there's secret hallways, but I do have an office that I unofficially is mine in Norfolk, and it's a window office, of course. If I'm going to steal one, I should steal one.
Savannah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's my favorite because it overlooks everything that I love about downtown Norfolk, the water, the ships, the buildings. So I haven't picked my Virginia Beach one yet, but it's coming. And I have one in Newport News too.
I met a man named Noland yesterday in Newport News. Is there any remnants of him in the Gather Newport News?
There is not.
I thought that was like your favorite place.
It is my favorite place, but yeah, we did look at areas in Newport News and it got a little tough. And then growing up in the area, everybody did a field trip or did daycare at the Virginia Living Museum. Everybody knows about the Virginia Living Museum. So it just was something different. And it actually came because in our Scott's Addition location in Richmond, we have animals too. So there's the buffalo, the llama. So
was I at the Virginia, that museum that you're talking about yesterday? Is that where we were? Is that where the Nolan Trail is? Or is that Mariners Museum?
No, we're at Mariners Museum.
Got it. What are some hidden gems that people don't know about the area that if you had a friend that was coming in, where would you want to take them? Where's that hidden gem?
Yeah. I guess it depends on what they want to do. Definitely the Nolan Trail. I think the Nolan Trail is the most underrated area in all of Hampton Roads. First Landing is beautiful, but I think the Nolan Trail is the best in my book. I don't think it's a hidden gem, but I love Buckrow Beach. I sometimes go there over Virginia Beach because I enjoy it more. And one of my favorite restaurants actually recently closed during COVID, which is a little sad. It was my favorite cocktail place. So that would have been my favorite cocktail gem.
That brings up an interesting point. So we have Buffalo has the chicken wings, Philadelphia has the cheesesteak. You being along your whole life in the 757, what is like the one restaurant? What's the staple food that when you bring someone here, what are we famous for? I mean, the only thing that I can think of is the white sauce at when you get chips and salsa.
That's what I was gonna say.
I mean, what else is there? I mean, don't get me wrong.
Hey, that white sauce.
Yeah.
Well, it's tough because I'm vegetarian. So all the things that are the go-tos, I don't eat. So they're not my go-tos anymore.
But I mean, like, we've got to put something on the map other than, we got to have something more than Plaza Azteca, and which is great. But I mean, what is our staple? We have to put something on the map.
What about peanuts? Ham?
Yeah, I mean, the small business of the year from the chamber was Hub's Peanuts. Just one, so maybe it is peanuts. I mean, and by the way, like, have you ever had like the chocolate covered ones of those things? They're
dude, I can't.
They have Cajun style. Oh man, I thought it was barbecue when I first moved down here. So I moved down here from DC, in 07, the Northern Virginia DC area, and people talk about barbecue here, but I don't know.
Right.
Like,
that's the thing.
I don't dig that. I don't think it's crab because Maryland took crab. Now, some people might say seafood, but is there an aspect of seafood of it, or is just seafood in general?
I don't like Hampton Roads. We bring all of everything to Hampton Roads, but we don't really have anything that we're like, hey, this is ours.
Well, I think even from like a landmark perspective, you could have that same question, right? So like maybe not food, but like, what's the landmark of the area? So like if you were to watch a football game or a soccer game, let's say that we had a professional football team here, right? And they were, going out to the, when they go to commercial, they show like video of different places. So like in DC, it would be specific memorials or the Washington Monument, things like that. What would that be here? Is it Mount Trashmore? Is it the Wisconsin? Like, what is it? Is it Virginia Beach, right? Like, what is that landmark? Like, it's hard to answer that.
Right. The other one I think about is if we were to ever get a professional sports team, what would the nickname of that team be? Because I think that the Tides is cool and the Admirals is cool. What's the next best thing?
It would be Virginia. It would probably be Virginia, and it would be the Vipers.
Let's start.
No, I don't. Honestly, I think we would take the whole state because Virginia doesn't have a professional sports team. The Washington football team has allegedly talked about moving. The Washington football team, that's their new name for 2020. They've talked about moving to Virginia, but I think that if something was to happen here, it would be a Virginia team, and it would be named Virginia something, not city specific.
Yeah, I mean, this has relevance because we've been going through this whole regional exercise of uniting one another. So I think these are all really important steps to bring all of us closer to rally around something.
Yeah, I don't know. Part of me, I'm torn because I feel like in some ways that's kind of what makes us special because there are so many things. But then at the same time, when we are trying to rebrand ourselves and draw attention to ourselves, we can't say, well, we have everything. We can be the jellyfish. We have no shape. We have no anything, but we'll sting you when you're here. The stingers. Virginia stingers.
Yeah, the Vipers wouldn't work because clearly there is no Vipers. So, but I don't think the name. I think if we were to ever get a professional sports team, it would be Virginia. Would be the first word, not a city specific. Was more of what I was getting out there. Who knows? What's something that we haven't talked about, Savannah, that you like to talk about, or that's it? I'm terrible question asker today.
Well, I'm a little bit of a dreamer. I enjoy traveling, and I miss traveling right now in COVID. So where are you guys traveling to when this is all over?
We just booked a trip to Jamaica. So if everything goes well, we'll be in January.
Wow.
That's cool. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I would totally go on a vacation right now, but I guess can't. I don't know. I mean, it's my favorite place to ever go was when I went to Costa Rica. And that place is just amazing.
Yes.
You been there?
Yeah, that was like my dream place to go to. And when I first started Gather, I started in January and I went in March and absolutely loved it. I could live in Costa Rica.
A lot of Americans do.
I would.
That's cool.
Savannah, you sound great. The lighting is great. What is that? Where were you broadcasting from?
I am in the Croatan conference room of Gather, Virginia Beach. So we just opened July 29th. And that's the thing about COVID. When you've signed a commercial lease 6 months out, you can't get out of it. So we are here and open. And
so were there thoughts of getting out of it?
No, I think we always wanted to. It was a little tough to get into town center. And it was just one of those things like, all right, we're here. We're doing this. COVID 2020, here we come. But I think it's been really great because a lot of people are working from home, but they're tired of it. And, that's something we haven't hit on is everyone's tired of being at home. And so you want to do things safely, but you also need to meet people and talk to people and just get out of the house and shower and get dressed. And so we've had so many people that have thanked us for being open and for making them feel safe, but just giving them a place to actually talk to somebody other than their dog and their spouse and their kids.
Wait, so there's another option?
Us.
You talked a little bit about competition. Like how do you just like mentally, physically handle that as an individual? Like when you were the new kid on the block, that went well. And then another new kid comes on the block. How do you handle that?
Yeah, I think it depends on who it is. One thing I've been a little disappointed in is sometimes I think even our local people can get a little territorial. And so that has been tough. But I think, we've had a national company come in as well. And not everybody plays the same way, and that's okay. Everybody runs their business differently, but we just try to stick true to ourselves. Our staff sometimes gets disappointed by it or gets hung up on it. And I just say, guys, we got to focus on what we do well. And that's truly caring about our people and taking care of them. And, one thing I really admire about one of our co-owners, Polly White, is that, she says that we take care of people and we hope that it will be returned back to us. And we don't know if it will, but we just have to believe in that and just keep going.
So how do you do the tours now, and how can someone take a tour of one of the 3 locations in Hampton Roads?
Yeah, so doing the tours the same. We do more individual tours, so we're not doing obviously as many group things. When we're first opening a location, we try to make it fun and do hard hats and group tours, but we had to modify that a little bit. So we throw on our masks and still walk them around, keep it a little bit more individualized. And you can book a tour through workatgather.com and learn about all 6 of our locations. And we're actually opening our 7th location in December in Midlothian. So that will be coming soon. And we already have a lot of people that are really interested and a waiting list for it right now, which is exciting.
If I join one of the ones, do I get to do the other ones too? Or how's that work?
Yes. So for $250 a month, you can work out in our open area and you have 24/7 access to all of our locations, conference room time, printing allowance, the events that we do, coffee, great people.
One of the things that I think helps you guys expand and get people to know who you were is to host events from non-members, members, etc. Obviously, it's 2020 and you're not allowed to have events. What have you done to supplement that event style of marketing when you can't bring people into your home, basically?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have done a lot of virtual things. So I like to joke that the hard hat has become the new black. And so I'll slap on a hard hat, give virtual tours. So we have a lot of networking groups that we like to host that, weren't ready to have events, and we haven't been able to have some of them in the space. So we just did virtual and gave them a tour, did some quizzing. So we did some fun trivia about Gather. And I think a lot of people are really open and flexible right now, and they're still interested, but they're just not ready to come in yet. Some are, some aren't. And then we've also done 3D tours as well.
So knowing that before that style of event marketing worked for you guys, and for the last few months you haven't been able to do that, is that something that in the future you will go back to?
Yeah, I think so. We are planning on a few small events, and what we're doing is we used to try to keep it kind of contained so that we could show people around and really connect with them, and we still want that. But we do plan on having events, but we want to do it safely. So one of our events will have masks on hand, obviously sanitizer, our air filters will be going, but we're going to spread them out significantly. And we're also doing a sign-up list. So we've always done sign-ups, but for this, you have to sign up, you have to reserve your ticket, and it is a limited attendance event.
So for the person that doesn't want to wear a mask in a place like that, how do you handle that?
Yeah, that's a good question. We haven't really typically what we'll do is we'll pull them aside and have a more one-on-one conversation. We have had a few people say, oh, well, you guys are making us wear masks. And it's like, well, this isn't us anymore. Like, this is what the governor's saying. And so, we're just trying to do what we can. So when we explain to them that, hey, we're a small business and we need everybody on board, if it's a health concern, we understand that. And we have helped people just have them work individually in their office. But when they're in common spaces, when they're talking with people, we do ask that they wear a mask. When they're in their private office, that's up to them.
You handled that so well, I thought.
Oh, thank you. Well, I've had to answer it a lot lately. I try to be, nice about it and just say, hey, need you to.
What's the craziest mask that you've seen?
I've seen one with like the crazy teeth fangs on it.
Yeah, I was going to say a mutual friend of all of ours has the Silence of the Lambs mask.
Who?
Gary.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, Katie would love that.
Interesting.
I'll have to tell her.
I'm thinking about printing out some for people to buy that just has my face on it.
You should.
You can get those now.
Well, I'm all on it.
And now, yeah. So I think the ladies now have clothes that you can buy that if you forget your mask that's around the neck that you can just raise up and wrap it around your ears.
Apparently, at the very beginning of all this, there was, fashion companies, clothing companies that wanted to get into it quick because they knew that they predicted that it was going to be something that people would wear for a long time. And it's crazy to think that something that's like, I don't have a mask on me, but like that's this much, right? Those things are like $10, $15, $20 that people are spending. It's like,
right.
It's like 1/100th of a t-shirt. It's ridiculous. But hey, people are making it, and good for them for being innovative throughout this. I mean, I think that's the key is innovate or die, right? And
first movers.
People don't want to wait. People want something, so that's cool. Anything else that we haven't talked about, Savannah, that you want to talk about?
I don't think so. I think we touched all of it. I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, where did you get those headphones from?
So we ordered these Amazon. We give them out for our podcast booth. So I am not the most podcast savvy, but we do have.
I tried setting you up. I teed up the whole podcast thing, thinking that you were in the podcast booth, and it turned out you were in a conference room. So
I know I have the mic and podcast equipment, but I decided to just go with the headphones. So
do you sanitize that after every time?
We do have sanitizing stations. So we do go through around and sanitize, but we also, because we're a communal area, we also ask that our members help us with that. So we have signs up and sanitizing stations asking them to sanitize everything before they go in. So then they know that it has been cleaned.
Gotcha. Have any of you guys seen like on a receipt that says like COVID expense?
Yes.
Yeah. You have, Savannah?
Yeah, I had to call my dentist office. They charged me $18 for PPE and my insurance did not cover it.
Wow.
Interesting. I've heard that people are doing it. I just haven't seen it. And so $18 was the number that they just generally did it. And so it just did it say COVID expense? Like what did it say on it?
That was the weird thing. They didn't really code it correctly, or they said they don't have a PPE COVID code, but I would think they would need one because to me, insurance should cover that. And $18, I'll pay it, but that might be
but 18 times the 100 people they have a day. I mean, they just made $2,000 extra if my math was right. Probably wasn't. But I think it was right. But I mean, that's wild. I mean, what's interesting is some people I'm seeing are just, I'm hearing are just increasing at a percentage, up 5% across the board, right? And then others I'm hearing there's an actual line item that says COVID expense. But so it's interesting that you have seen that at the doctor's office.
Yeah. I do have a question for you guys. Where do you see everything being in 6 months?
I'm doing my math real quick. I was like, gosh, if it's January, hopefully I see myself in Jamaica right now. But I don't know. That's a great question. I had
February,
so I'll be fresh back from Jamaica. I think that everything has to kind of go through its cycle yet. So like fall activities hasn't gone through its COVID cycle. Winter activities hasn't gone through its. I don't see spring stuff. I think that they're going to learn enough by then that they'll be able to adapt and adjust. But I don't think that until spring hits, we're going to see any real improvement, if you will. I hope that it does.
Well, as a former journalist and a guy who understands the media tremendously, I think you have to first look at the last 3 to 6 months and realize how much attention has been towards something on the more negative, frightening side of things. Right. So there is going to be, and that compounded day after day after day. And then in our safe zones, places on social media where people felt safe before, then felt threatened by this thing and it's infected into it, right? From their friends and others sharing a bunch of stuff. So there is at least that time frame of data that's gone through people that has to cycle through itself.
Correct.
Right. And so because that compounded for so long, people, even who aren't worried about it, it's still going to be in their mind for a long time. And I think we have to get through that first. And so I don't think you see big events for a long time. I think probably, and you're always going to hear absolute issues from people. So like so-and-so went to this game, there was 100,000 people there and they died from this thing. COVID or not, right? And so there's always going to be press around that absolute. And so it's just how long does that linger on this stuff, even if we are on a trajectory of very positive things. So concerts, I don't think you're looking at for any time soon. I think I think a lot of people, look, I'm not a doctor. I just play one on TV. But I think a lot of things are going to stay just like this. Yeah,
I mean, it's like the interesting stuff is how is entertainment, TV, movies going to change?
Well, they're struggling. I mean, have you seen that people will pay $100 to go to the movie theater, but they won't pay $20 to watch a TV show or a movie on their screen?
Right.
So two major movies, Top Gun and something else that I can't think of, The Quiet Place, they thought would be very highly ranked movies at the movie theaters. They both said that they're not going to come out until next year because movies that have come out at that $20 price point are getting butchered at home, and people aren't paying the $20 at home. So there's that they have to figure out, right?
Yeah, and I think that from what I hear on the production side, so just like the NBA has done with their bubble, different television shows have booked an entire hotel, and that's their bubble. And so then they'll film the different episodes, but they keep everybody quarantined within their own bubble. Because all these television shows, I mean, they've got to figure out something or else they're not going to be able to film. And so it'll be interesting to see how this progresses forward.
I've been pleasantly surprised with how innovative people have been with the tools that they have in front of them.
You know, Big Brother's got to be happy right now. It's the only thing on TV worth watching. It's the only thing new.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I feel like it was, we need to get to June and now we need to get through the summer. Well, now we're finding a lot of kids aren't going back to school. So now it's like we need to get through this 6 weeks, this 9 weeks. So
And that's there's no finish line, and that's what's so frustrating. And all the pressure of people, this continues to build and build and build because there's no finish line. It keeps getting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as we're on the prediction post of this, I mean, I think the next thing is you've had people complain about mask. The next thing is a vaccine, right? An accelerated vaccine, and usually you're going to have people positively and negatively go after that. And so that's going to be the next thing that people, because it's going to come out soon, I think it sounds like.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have people, I don't want to take it. I will take it. And so that'll be the next battle there. So there's a ridiculously lame prediction from me. I just hope that WrestleMania 37 happens in LA so that I can go to that next April or whatever it is. But it's not going to happen. That'll still be on the bucket list. Savannah, we appreciate you being with us today. It was a lot of fun. And hopefully you get to jump into that water behind you soon. Well, don't jump into it because that's a wall and that would hurt you. But the water that's in the picture from there, hopefully you get to jump in soon. And Tim, always good to see you. Thank you all for watching the show. We will see you guys next Thursday at 11 a.m. Until next time, peace and pancakes.